I just got the idea of this video and I'm gonna make it. I might take it down, I might remake it, but I think it's worth putting up or talking about. So I need to talk more about my story and about things happened to me, about my last narc relationships. And narc relationship number 2, I think I was talking about it on another video, but I had to go, so I edited the video. I might still post that. There was a situation in narc relationship number 2. Basically, long story short, it wasn't a real relationship. All of these things aren't. They're still connected to their exes. They're constantly cheating behind your back. Not all of them. My one was cheating with my friends, giving my friends information about me, excluding me from stuff, hanging out with them without me, going places, not giving me information, gaslighting me, projecting on me, narcissistic, reactive abuse that happened a few times. And then she claimed victimhood and claimed that like I was abusive. She used to constantly say how I was controlling. She used to play games with she used to post on Instagram an empty desk when I would go to my martial arts classes. So then that would be like a code for someone to come over. These are all things that I could feel it in my spirit. And there was a guy that was a part of this group. Now, he was a bit older. So you can imagine I was a bit younger. I wasn't really, still very naive, still growing, still learning. I hadn't really found myself though. I wasn't like accomplishing anything fully, or still learning stuff, finding my feet career-wise, everything wise, physicality-wise, spirituality-wise. Now, this friend, he was a bit older. He was a bit more he knew who he was. Came across confident, the man of the party, life of the party sort of character. Looking back, I know this man was a narc, but I didn't know what narcissism was back then. They were both narcs, but I didn't know what it was back then. Always trying to get attention from other people, via sort of trying to be this like person who would research art or film or music or fashion or whatever the topic was. It was someone that was always like well versed in those things, and so he came across as quite interesting. And also physically, there was a group of those guys as well, because they were older. Even though frame wise, I'm smaller, a lot of them were in the gym working out, were more developed physically than myself. So obviously they had that shape, that sort of V-taper kind of attractive masculine shape. And that counts, because when you're a guy and you have a presence, when you look after yourself, when you go into the gym, when you hold yourself a certain way, but when you're naturally built a certain way as well. When you're like bigger, tall, big, you come across as strong and competent. Most of them, if not all, none of them were strong, like physically, like fighters, not really. I know that for a fact because there was an incident where a friend of ours was beaten very badly. And when this happened, I went to call 2 of them to come out to go and find the person to get, to have some get back or to fight for this person. But it was that person's fault. So reluctantly, I got these 2. I went to go and call some backup to let's go and get the guy, and they did not want it. So they're not people that fight or anything. Right. So that one guy, he came across that way as quite confident, lots of friends, popular, whatever. So the narcissistic relationship number 2 I was dealing with, there was a situation where we were at a get-together, and when I was leaving, we were leaving, he shouted out my name, "Your time." So he said my name where there's a gap. And he went, your time. And I was like, what does that mean? Your time. So I left. I thought, oh, nothing of it. So he kept dropping in these little hints of like, that ain't your girl. It's just your time. And there was another time where we were on this roof terrace bar, and she used to go away and come back into the country, traveling, coming back, go away and come back, go away, come back, doing some of her clothing stuff or whatever it was. And then she'd come back, and then we were at this roof terrace bar, and she was sat on the floor with her friends, a group of friends, and he came and he crouched down and he gave her this hug while looking at me. And this is when we were like in this fake relationship. So he'd look at me like, this is I'm hugging this person, whatever. So there was all these little kind of signals, symbols, whatever. So we were at this nightclub. We was at this party and we were dancing, and there was a lot of alcohol and substances involved. Now, at some point at the night, the person I was dealing with and her friend were dancing, and they were kind of like dancing in a seductive way towards this guy who was also like known as one of my friends at this time, like one of my good friends. But yeah, we used to just hang out, go away, play music together, drink together. You know how all these narcissists behave, all this kind of like, is it nihilistic? Is that the way? That sort of debauchery life, just going, drinking in pubs, hanging out, going to parties. We used to play records, both of us doing that. But anyway, they were both acting seductive towards him, and I thought it was in my head. So I was like, what's going on here? Why is this girl sort of like in this kind of weird vibration towards this guy that I knew, like one of my friends basically? And he was like, oh no, don't worry, nothing's going on, blah blah blah. And at some point, her friend that was also dancing towards him in a seductive way with my girlfriend, they were dancing together on each other, like stroking each other and doing something with each other, two girls, and then on my friend. She started saying to me, mouthing to me like, F off, like get out of here, like what are you doing here, we don't want you around, blah blah. So I was like, what is this? Like I was like in this weird thing. So I turned to the guy, I was like, do you see this? And he was like, oh no, don't worry, she doesn't mean it, ignore her, we're having a nice time, it's in your head, chill out, you know, dance over here, don't listen to her. So he played that part, and I got a bit angry, and we went outside, we sat down on the pavement, and I was just a bit confused. He was like, oh, chill out, don't worry, it's all good, we had a cigarette, it's fine. We went back inside, then it was kind of all forgotten, it calmed down, and then I went home with the girl I was seeing, and then he went home with that girl, but I don't know if they went together or whatever. And when we were sort of in bed, me and the person that I was seeing, girlfriend, but really, you know, a situationship for primary supply, she said to me, I'm so glad I came home with you. I'm so happy right now that I came home with you. Sort of like indirectly letting me know in that with those words, but in her expression and her reaction, she was telling me that she didn't want to be there with me. Now the next day comes around, we fall asleep, she wakes up, and it's like a complete different person. They're like cuddling. We were cuddling, she was cuddling, you know, in her arms, like she was in my arms or whatever. And then we ended up going to have lunch with her brother or something like that. I can't remember. We went out the next day to have lunch somewhere with another friend. I think it was her brother that we went to go and meet. Anyway, years passed after that event, and she would go and have sleepovers with that female friend that was being seductive to that guy. And that guy that they were having sleepovers with, he lived like that guy that I knew, the friend, whatever, frenemy or fake friend. He lived about 4 or 5 minutes away from that girl. And I think they were friends with benefits or something. All these narcs, they in that group were all sleeping with each other. They would have these girls that they would pass around the boys, and they were all sleep with like I remember one of the girls in my, I don't want to say her name, but she slept with like all the boys. All the boys were like DJs or producers or just like hangers on, like not groupies, but they were like just friends because they were like cool, because they were into some sort of subculture that we were into, whether it be like art or film or whatever it was at that time. It was kind of like a bohemian group, but at the same time, it's all fake. It's all nothing real about it. But anyway, she would go and have sleepovers with that girl. But bear in mind, we all lived in the same town, and yeah, and she lived maybe half an hour away from that girl, and maybe 20 minutes away from, half an hour away from me, 40 minutes from me, and she would say, "Oh, look, I'm going for a sleepover," and I used to work a 9 to 5, like a office style 9 to 5, so I had to be at work at a certain time every day, finish work certain time every day, and so at some point, oh, after these sleepovers, there was numerous sleepovers. She fell out with this girl. Now I don't know for certain that what I'm saying is what happened, but my spirits told me what's happening. So what was happening that those two would go and they would have relations with each other, and on occasion they would invite that male friend that they were dancing seductively on, that guy that I knew, who was like the kind of like masculine, kind of like biggish, kind of like older guy, mature, knew what he wanted kind of guy, with him. So 3 of them. And then what happened was, this girl I was with and that friend that she had fell out. So what my spirit told me is, she started seeing that guy without that friend, but I think she was seeing that guy all along, like from when he was saying to me, "Your time," and all the signals he was like showing me. So they had relations that ran on for a long time. So that was always in the background. So this is what narcs do. It's like they have supplies scattered around whenever they need attention or sex or like a place to stay or whatever. They would go and with that person. So he was like her thing. Like there was so many times where I would call her and she would be giggling and there would be like a man's voice and I'd be like, "Who's that?" And she'd be like, "Oh, no way, oh, it's just a friend, or it's my friend's brother." She would always have like some lie, or my phone died, and she'd be out all night, and then she would come back in the morning and say, "Oh, I got back at this time, my phone died." You know, she was always out with those guys who claimed they were my fake friends, or she was going to meet up with them, and they would have sexual relations, and they enjoyed doing that sort of stuff. So it's like, I still see that her female friend now, and I walk past her, and when she sees me, she gives me the like dirtiest looks. So this video will represent that narcopaths, narcissists, energy vampires, and cretins are angry at us. One of the reasons is for what they do to us. So even though they're the ones cheating on us, sometimes they're accusing us of cheating, they are the ones getting up to this low down, dirty behaviors, maneuvers, like polysexuals, you know, like they're just all like having this like unprotected, gang banging, threesomes, unadulterated sex, and then she'll claim, "Oh, female sexuality, blah blah blah." They'll cover it up, their whoredom, with like freedom of expression, women's empowerment, blah blah blah. But what it was with that girl, I was seeing, and all her friends knew as well, that she was just a low vibrational cretin, you know, this low lust. And I had issues with lust. I still do have issues with lust. But empathic people, we struggle with it, but we know that we've got issues and we're trying to work on them. And because of our high vibrations, when we do go with people, we end up giving them our energy and swapping that vitality with them. So we take on their dark, horrible, stinky energy, and they get our love and light. And that's why it's very hard to sort of go around and just sleep with any person because you're sort of entangling in the spiritual world, and yeah, you take on some of their trauma and there's an exchange there. So it's kind of like the destiny swappers and they actually destiny blockers, because if you're high vibrational and you're attracting positive situations, people, experiences, when you get with these low vibration, it brings your vibration down and also they go up. So because you swap, they now become energized for a certain period of time before it goes down again, because they're like a big massive bucket with a bucket of water with a hole in it. They constantly need filling up with supply, energy, sex, money, materialistic things, attention, clout, people looking at their bodies, being seen as they think they're sexy, whatever it is. Whereas we have our moments where we just have a moment of weakness and we can lapse into those patterns, but we can live independently without going out, getting drunk, having sex, doing drugs, getting with people we don't know, one night stands, risky behavior, unprotected sex, all this fellatio, all this like in the toilet, doing all this like wild stuff, which they get up to. They're really low down, dirty dogs. Yeah, man. All the stuff that went on during that period it's actually embarrassing. Like what I did, fair enough. I take full responsibility. I'm not perfect, but also just not just being in those scenarios and those sort of situations with those people, it's just disgusting.